Thanks to this episode's sponsor, the coldest water bottle, here's Hamster's hot take. If you're gonna call your indie games retro, then at the very least go through the effort of making it look authentic. Even without modern compression, actual retro games were around 100 kilobytes. If your parallaxing, 3D animations, particle effects, and crystal clear voice and music sampling result in your game being larger by a factor of several thousand compared to actual retro games, you're not only coming off as blatantly misrepresenting your inspiration, but also misdirecting the younger generation who is now missing out on what makes retro games so impressive to begin with. You know, I haven't had to go downstairs for 3 days because of this thing. The coldest water bottle is a fully insulated heavy-duty beast. You'd think people would invest in well-made, useful products that last, but for some reason they keep buying these jank plastic water bottles that leak, condensate, and melt ice like it was their job. I've been searching for a good one as well, primarily due to Kim breaking everything we buy, but sorry Kim, this one's mine. The coldest water bottle keeps your drink cold for literal days with this industrial insulation technology, which even prevents condensation from escaping, ranging from 12-ounce kids bottles to freaking gallon-sized ice baths. Grab one of these puppies and never buy another water bottle again with the affiliate link in the description and use the promo code HAMSTER for an extra 10% off your entire order. Coldest also hosts weekly giveaways, so be sure to sign up with the link below for a chance to win one of these puppies. Hello Internet, I'm HamsterBomb.
And I'm Zach.
And this is HITBOX, and oh my god. Normally we just talk about whatever we want to cover in video game world, but yikes, there's been something really big that just happened, and we're kind of butting this into our random episodes of things that we just want to scatter in here and talk about. This is similar. We did one with Pokemon. I did one with Matt, I believe, where we were just talking about some really big stuff in Pokemon that was happening. This is huge for Metroid, but also Nintendo in general. There seems to be like a big shift going on here.
Right, yeah.
Oh my god, if you didn't see E3,
which you should have.
Or my reaction, oh my god, of E3. I don't know how you managed to get to this video and not see my reaction to E3 or the very important thing that is in E3. That's kind of the title of this episode. Metroid 5 is real.
Yeah, not only is it just Metroid 5,
it's Metroid Dread.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who don't know much about Metroid, and this is going to be their first one, which is awesome. We're so glad to have you playing Metroid games.
Yeah.
I don't want to say you've been missing out. I want to say that Nintendo's been missing out on making it a thing for a long time. About 20 years. Because of the fact that the ones that we've had since then have pretty much just been other companies making Metroid games.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, this is as well, though we'll cover that in a bit. I am totally fine with Mercury Steam. These are the same people who did Samus Returns, and wow, I reviewed that, so you go check that out if you want to hear how I feel about Mercury Steam. But yeah, Metroid 5!
Metroid 5!
Metroid 5!
Yeah!
Oh my, okay, so just to, I guess, try and catch people up to speed, so there could be all sorts of different audiences, people trying to get into this. Say, just in terms of like the general audience who doesn't really appreciate, you know what Metroid generally is, you know who Samus is, but, you know, that's about it. Smash Brothers kind of gives you a taste of it. You know, Ridley's always in there. Ridley comes back. Now, can I have a quick interjection before we get anywhere?
Go for it.
I had a mini Twitter rant lately, and I want to just clear some stuff up for those jumping into Metroid who don't know this. It's not exactly fair to say Ridley is one of those villains who, like, always shows up, and even though he's dead a million times, like Ganondorf or Bowser.
Yeah.
It's not true. Every single time Ridley comes back, there's a reason, and there was always some sort of, like, story progression of why you fought Ridley again.
Right.
If I can very quickly blow through them.
Go for it.
Yes, you fight him in Metroid 1.
Yes.
He is recovering after Metroid 1, and the Space Pirates turn him into Meta Ridley to help him recover.
Yep.
Meta Ridley is fought next in Metroid Prime. He is defeated there, and not in Prime 2 because he is recovering. As he's still recovering, Prime 3, they up the game again, make him Omega Ridley, where he's just getting bigger and trying to grow out of the metaform, but he's relying more on the cybernetics. He is defeated once again. After this point, Metroid 2. He's originally not in Metroid 2, the Game Boy one, but in Samus Returns. Spoiler, sorry about that. He's in it at the end.
Oh, that's cool.
It's super crazy. Now, the best part about this is they actually canonize the Prime series by making him growing out of the metaform as you fight him.
Oh, that's cool.
It's my favorite Ridley fight they've ever done. It's so amazing. Some people have problems with it being there for the story, but honestly, right after this point, in Super, he needs to come back again and not be in his meta form. So, and that's why he's like, it's kind of like a bridging the gaps answer that I kind of wanted. So there's a reason for him being there. He's defeated as Samus takes the baby Metroid. You know, we know the Super story. If not, I have episodes explaining all the Metroid games. Other than Prime. Prime's series is coming soon from reviews. Then, of course, you fight Ridley in Super, where he is killed.
Yep.
He is dead. That's Metroid 3. So Ridley is dead by this point. Now in Metroid 4, which is Fusion, this is kind of a good way to tie things together again, and I realized my rant is actually making sense. So in Fusion, Ridley's corpse was saved and literally put on ice.
Yeah.
And an X-parasite, which might come up in our conversation later. It's basically like this deadly alien parasitic thing that can take on forms of anything that it kills.
Which the Metroids were the predator.
Exactly. Metroids were created to kill these things, and then the Metroids went out of control themselves.
Yep.
So that's kind of the story, what we know so far of what the Metroids are, which is going to be concluding. We'll get to it in Dread. But so basically one of these things gets into Ridley's corpse, and you're fighting an X-parasite. You're not fighting Ridley. Ridley's dead. Now, if we really wanted to go there, Other M is technically in there as well, but that's not Ridley as well. That's another clone Galactic Federation troops we're trying to recreate to try and turn it into a bioweapon. Not Ridley. So, Metroid Dread, he's dead. There is no Ridley. He's not coming back.
That we know of.
That we know of. Now, if he did come back and it was a live, living version of Ridley, now I have problems because up to this point, there's never been any stupid Ganondorf him back to life again. So, if you say that, it's only because you don't know enough about Metroid. But still, I would not be sad to see like an Emmy, one of the robots that they designed to look like Ridley. People have come up with designs that it would look so cool. Because I love Ridley. He's probably my favorite video game villain, maybe even character in any game. He's so cool. I love his design. He's a xenomorph.
Well, I mean, thinking on that, I mean, that's the whole Metroid series. It apes so much from the Alien movies, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it does.
And they even came out and said, yeah, we modeled, you know, like Metroid 4, Metroid Fusion after, you know, Alien Resurrection.
Yeah, there's even some theories people have saying that the Metroid series kind of went dormant because Nintendo was secretly ashamed of that fact, that they took so much from it. And there's also, even in Super Metroid, straight up stolen audio clips from Godzilla for the monsters.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah, that's okay.
So, I mean, it's a weird theory, but I don't have anything else coming around of why they stopped making Metroid, because back in the Super Nintendo days, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Nintendo had basically the Holy Trinity: Mario, Zelda, Metroid. And I know that sounds ludicrous to people nowadays. They would say, like, how can Metroid be bigger than even some of the smaller things that Nintendo has that have come out of even recent days, like Splatoon? Like, are you out of your mind? And you look at the sales numbers and you would think you're also out of your mind. But keep in mind, the install base of the Nintendo Switch compared to, say, like the GameCube or the Game Boy Advance is crazy. It's not the same environment at all. So it's why it's not shocking where they suddenly announce after 19 years, Metroid 5 is happening, the sequel to a Game Boy Advance game, which in itself was, you know, if we go in order here, Metroid 1 is the NES, Metroid 2 is the Game Boy, Metroid 3 is the Super Nintendo, and Metroid 4 is the Game Boy Advance. You jumped a console every single time. So you kind of sabotaged yourself a little bit there. I mean, because some people who had, for example, you know, a Super Nintendo, do you really have a Game Boy as well? I mean, in a lot of cases you would, but like this Game Boy Advance didn't sell very well, and you know, so I can see where some of the issues might have come from if people were confused about story, but that's another thing we should probably clear up. What I was just saying about Ridley, none of that really matters for going into Dread.
No.
In fact, they've shown, if you've seen the brief interview with Yoshio Sakamoto.
Yes.
Oh my god. We could make a whole podcast just talking about everything he covered in there, but they showed some awesome new redone artwork showing how the story went down, even frame for frame, redoing some of them from Fusion to explain all you need to know going into this, which really isn't much. So if you want to start from this one and then get back into the other Metroid games, go for it. If you're able to play others in the interim leading up to there, go for it. I'd recommend Super as your first one.
That's easily accessible. It's on the Nintendo Switch
exactly.
Online.
It's on any NSO Online. I wouldn't recommend you get into NES Metroid first. Funnily, that's my first Metroid game.
Oh wow!
I'm still playing Metroid. Yeah, I know. Well, if anything, I appreciate a lot of that game and see what they were doing. And there's some things that I actually kind of miss out of the original that we kind of canned later, but not the controls. But still, oh man. So you have a couple notes for us to try and keep this on track, because this is easily, if you let me, I'm going to rant about Metroid for an hour and a half, and we don't want that.
What I would do with Dragon Quest, he would do easily with Metroid.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, imagine we got to like Dragon Quest 5, and you had nothing, crickets, until a couple weeks ago. Wouldn't you just?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's. I feel like it's that big, but still.
Yeah.
I mean, if we don't stay on track of like just what this means. Because I want to at least touch on both sides of people coming into this fresh who are just watching all these YouTubers react to basically the number 5 and then the word Dread. Why is that so big of a deal? We kind of talked about why 5 is a big deal. Because, one, if you're trying to revitalize Metroid, why would you do it like this? You know, you would think, it's like... a good example. If they came out of nowhere and say they were making Pikmin 4, but Pikmin 3 Deluxe did not come to the Switch.
Oh, that'd be super weird.
Wouldn't it be weird?
Oh my, yeah.
That's what's happening. There is no Metroid game on the Switch. You cannot buy a Metroid game on the Switch. You could buy Blasphemous, you can buy Hollow Knight. You cannot buy Metroid on the Switch. So, weird. And it's also bringing up this, of course, everyone talking about why NSO doesn't give you more systems to play on. Why can't we play... N64 has been a big one for a while, but now it's Game Boy Advance, because now they're saying, hey, now I want to get into Metroid and learn about this. I want to play Fusion. I want to play Zero Mission. And that's Game Boy Advance. I can't play them. And that's an easy thing to put on there.
Oh, I know.
But no. But still, at least in terms of 5. That's why just the number of them saying it's Metroid 5. Even in the games, they made such a small deal about this. Like, Metroid, Super Metroid is not called Metroid 3. The only time you ever see that is when you start the game, the intro cinematic, it just types out Metroid 3. That's all you'll ever see of it ever saying Metroid 3, because it doesn't matter. You can pretty much start anywhere.
Yeah.
I think Fusion just does the same thing. You never really see it as Metroid 4 branded. It's just written as it in the title. So that just saying the 5 was such an inside thing. Not a lot of people were going to get that, but for those who did, it is massive. And then, oh my god, the fact that it's called Dread. I know we're dancing around that, but was there anything else that before we move on to...
Let's see. But yeah, no, you touched on the first 2D original 2D Metroid in 19 years.
Yeah, just the 19-year thing, but because people will be like, well, what was Samus Returns? I mean, technically, that's a remake of the Game Boy game, which, honestly, if we're looking at any of the games, I think that one needed it the most.
Yeah.
Fans were even making it, so, I mean, that I totally get that. And it's a great game. I think a really good remake needs to... No, I'm not going to make this episode.
Not yet. Let's just keep.
Can I finish the sentence and that's it?
Okay.
A really good remake just needs to make its original version obsolete.
And that's a topic for another day.
That is a topic for another day, but we'll get more into it later. But as far as I'm concerned, you can just play Samus Returns. Forget the Game Boy one. We can toss that guy in the bargain bin. It's gone. But yeah, so if you just wanted to play those, then yeah, for sure. Samus Returns, though, since it's a remake, it doesn't really count. And it was also, I kind of said this earlier, it's made by Mercury Steam.
Right.
So we've got another developer who was making this, and I felt so bad about this. Marketing. I don't think this is on our list of topics to talk about, but this is huge. Nintendo notoriously screws up marketing Metroid in a big way.
Oh, yeah.
I mean a big way. Now, sure, they make some commercials, and some are kind of cool, some are weird, but I mean, old 90s ads and things like that, or you're just going to run into that.
Yeah.
But here's my example of, like, some really, really bad ones, and I'll do a recent example with Samus Returns. So, you watch all of E3 2017, I think?
Yes.
And you get the trailer announcement reveal, sort of Metroid Prime 4. It's the big thing, and I get that. I would have done the same thing. You know, the development thing, they wouldn't have known that we're still waiting on it after all this time.
Yep.
But Samus Returns, they were also working on, and is absent from the entire E3 show. If you watch the Treehouse afterward, while they're talking about other irrelevant games, that's when they announced Samus Returns and that it's coming out with Amiibo. I didn't even know about it until after the Treehouse was over, and I'm looking up Metroid Prime 4 information, and all of a sudden I'm looking at, I'm like, oh, did they already show Samus's suit? Like, why are we seeing this? Samus Returns. Oh, that's kind of like a cool branding. Is that the subtitle of the game? And that sounds a lot like the second game. That's kind of weird for them to, oh, this is the second game. See, that is not the way to market stuff. And I was even the target audience for that, and they didn't even show like a little teaser saying it was happening. And then to make matters even worse, it was a 3DS game. And the 3DS is like already kicking the bucket by 2017.
Yeah.
In fact, what year did they completely defunct it? Was it 2019? It was not long after this.
No, it was like 2018, 2019.
Was it?
Yeah.
It was like right after this. And the Switch was already obviously a thing. Now, I get it. They were probably developing this for a while, and it just happened to be coming out on the 3DS, which is just a huge shame, because imagine where we would be now of people who had been able to play Samus Returns on their Switch, and now seeing Metroid's main story is finally continuing. This would have been even bigger than it already was, which it's super huge right now, because, I mean, you could also go back to a bunch of other Metroid games, see how they screwed up their marketing badly, because this is a unfortunate thing that they keep doing, and they keep missing the mark huge. But in terms of this one, you go to Nintendo's Twitter page or their YouTube channel, look at their banners right now. It's Metroid Dread.
Really?
Their profile picture is from Metroid Dread.
Okay.
They are pushing this game.
Good.
They're pushing a Metroid game.
They better.
And you see people talking about like the big things of E3. The big thing front and center is Metroid Dread of all of E3.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that a Metroid game, not just coming from a Metroid fan, of course, I'm going to be excited about that, but this is a small franchise.
In comparison, yeah.
Yeah, and it's dominating E3.
Because I've read so many opinions online where they kept saying, oh, Microsoft had the best E3. They had the best, all this, all that. I'm like, who cares?
Right, well, there is that, and then there's also, if you want to look at just purely how many people were watching different shows on E3, I've seen those graphs, and Nintendo dominated that as well. So now we've kind of known Xbox and sometimes a lot of Sony fans, hardcore fans, will say whatever they feel like as if it's true, but I mean, numbers are one thing, and then what people turn into pre-orders and actually buying the games is a completely different thing. I don't care who you say wins E3, right? So that's different, but just I'm talking of like, how many people are pre-ordering this game already? Oh my god. It's outrageous.
Yeah, because you told me you were having issues just trying to pre-order the special edition.
Issues is understating this to a ridiculous degree, but yes, I actually managed to get one. Yay! But good God, it'd take a lot of work. I've checked, and I'm not exaggerating, this is a whole other episode. Scalpers are awful. We will shelve that later. We'll probably talk about my specifics of these problems later, but because of scalpers, obviously the physical regular version of the game is fine, easily accessible. Go pre-order that. And just to shelve what we were talking about pre-orders, this is selling so much. It is the #1 most pre-ordered game since E3.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Out of everything announced, it was Metroid Dread. Now, I think if you look at Amazon, like the top 10 most pre-ordered games after E3, only one of them is not a Nintendo game.
Oh.
Yeah. And let me point out, there is a certain Breath of the Wild 2 that's Metroid Dread's beating. Oh my god. So anyway, I checked. Any single retailer that you can name that possibly sells video games or would let you pre-order them, and I looked for both the definitive edition, or I think it's called a special edition, and the Amiibo pack, and every single one of them, sometimes even in different regions around the world, willing to pay the extra shipping to get it here.
Yeah.
Everyone was sold out within seconds of them going live. And I knew, because I follow several places on Twitter, that all they do is check exactly when something pops up, and I would dive there within like 10 minutes of it going live, and they were already sold out. So that's Oh, God, and of course that's the scalper thing. The bots are attacking it so fast. Where I got lucky, by the way, if you're trying to nab one of these yourself, I, in the US, started calling a bunch of local GameStop.
Yep.
So if you're like in the UK, I believe it's Game, or whatever, wherever you can go that should be getting physical pre-orders.
Canada's got EB.
Yeah.
And there's Game over in the British Isles and all that, yeah.
Right, apparently, because back in the day, like, say you are trying to pre-order a game 15, 20 years ago, you would physically go into your store, you would pay them money, you would have a receipt, you'd hold on to the receipt till release day, bring the receipt back in, hand it to them, and they'd give you the game.
Yep.
And I didn't really think about it until, I was trying to pre-order this, like, they still do that, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
So yeah, if you go there, now call them first, because I had to call 4 different locations before I found one that even was given copies of the special edition to sell. Another problem, that's Nintendo underselling how big people were going to want this.
As usual.
Yeah, as usual, but hey, this is the better problem. I would rather it be selling so well that they didn't anticipate that the game would do so well, which means we'll get more! Because of course I want more.
So.
Yeah, so I went there and I actually got one of the last, if not the last. The guy was kind of dancing around. He's not allowed to say, that's why. But yeah, there's basically none of these left in the country. So if you need one, that's how you do it. You go to your store, you get one.
Oof.
Amiibos are gonna be another story though.
Yeah.
And now, because we can briefly talk about it, the Amiibos, and then we'll probably never talk about it again. The Samus Returns ones, they got in a lot of trouble because they locked off a whole difficulty mode just with one of the Amiibos. Now, as of course a fan of Metroid, I'm buying them anyway. You didn't need to sell me on it, I don't care.
Right.
That's a really bad mentality of making an Amiibo and saying that, okay, well, we gotta entice someone to buy the little toy to go with the game. And I get that, that's their job. But, if we're doing something like Skyward Sword, you're locking off a quality of life enhancement to your video game?
Yeah.
No, don't do that. Especially in Samus Returns, people got really mad about the whole difficulty mode. To be fair, it's not much harder than regular hard mode. It's really it's effectively just a skin and you're playing as a Fusion Samus.
Oh, right.
Which is really cool, but, people were making a big stink out of it without actually playing it for themselves. So these new ones, they've kind of learned from that. Now, if you scan the Samus one and the Emmy, you'll get like an extra energy tank and missile expansion respectively, I think. And if you scan them anytime after that, it will refill you on either once per day. So that's fine.
What I kind of wonder is how's that going to affect percentage completion?
From what I understand, because Samus Returns actually did the same thing with like the Smash Brothers Amiibos.
Okay.
And I don't think it messed with them. It technically would have pushed it over 100 or some percent, but the ones that you acquire that way don't count.
Okay.
From what I remember. Granted, I beat it each time as 100% save file, so I don't know what happens if I saw I missed an item, but I intentionally tried to beat the game anyway and see what it said for 100 or not. But I don't think it does that. I think,
okay, good.
Yeah, Mercury's team is really good with like programming this stuff.
Good.
But yeah, so the Amiibos, they look really cool. I'm really excited to get them if I can. Yeah. I'm not paying a scalper for those things.
Nope.
So it just makes me sad that that's a thing, but yeah, we're gonna try and shelve that for later.
Yep, for later.
Okay.
You want to talk about story now?
How about one more thing before we get to the game itself?
Okay.
The word dread.
Yes. You know more about this than I do. So.
Oh my god. Okay, so, now I'm totally on the spot here. I was supposed to make notes for this episode, but, I got busy. The Playing With Myself episode for this week was a doozy, and I'm sorry, I have no time.
You're doing this, you have a baby,
I'm trying to take care of the baby. And of course I did the Ocarina Hero remaster of the same one, which ran into its own series of problems, which you can even read about in its own description. But anyway, so I've been super busy and trying to like keep track of all this. I'm sorry if I'm on the fly here, but I know a lot about Metroid Dread just from being a Metroid fan. So sorry if I get some of these things wrong. I'm going to do my best to sum it up. So basically, way back, I'm going to say like it was around 2005-ish, a couple years after Fusion. Nintendo is doing I don't want to say leaking the existence of a Metroid game because there was a lot of times were weird back then. If you were going to E3, for example, you had to actually like write down which games were going to be shown. And this was one of the instances where somebody on the inside working at like IGN or something saw a list of games. And of course, you're not going to think anything of it because you just work there and you're like, oh, okay, that's kind of neat. I'm going to see these coming up soon. And they didn't think about it until after. Hold on. one of them was missing. And they checked the list. Metroid Dread was not shown. This was supposed to be a video game for the Nintendo DS, continuing the story of Metroid Fusion. Where was Metroid Dread? That was kind of weird.
Yeah.
You can also see it in a couple game magazines because whoever I guess was noticed it from here, I think that was the first point at like an E3 or something. Then they start reporting list of upcoming games for Nintendo DS in like Game Informers and stuff like that. You know, just game magazines, you flip through, you can see lists of them, and it'll say upcoming projects, Metroid Dread. Even one of them shows in parentheses, a new 2D Metroid game, continuing the stories of Fusion, or something along those lines. So they knew about this game, and very few people actually saw anything. I have heard reports of people who supposedly saw this, and people have been trying to investigate what is Metroid Dread. Wasn't it a canceled project? Are they trying anything? And after about, I'm going to say, 5 years of this, we all can assume it's dead. As you probably should assume after 5 years. Except for Prime 4, don't tell me that. It's not done.
Well, that's coming. That's what we thought about Duke Nukem Forever, but
I know.
We got that.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
For better or worse. I mean, hey, it happened. Kingdom Hearts 3 was another one that people thought would never happen.
Oh, it was vaporware, yeah.
Also for better or worse. But still. Anyway, so this is kind of what's happening. It's just little things like this, people talking about the game, and from here up till the next point I want to get to, nothing's really substantial. It's all kind of hearsay. Nobody really knows. It's almost like, if you remember, there was supposedly this Halo port to Nintendo DS.
Yeah.
That there was actually like a little video clip, supposedly, where you could see this happening, and that was another one of those like odd things in history where that's what Dread felt like. It felt like one of those fabled games.
Right.
That's why it's such a, I know I'm not getting ahead of myself, why it's such a big deal that this is called Dread. It's almost like an inside joke. It's so weird. So this is now, people basically circulated this name. Now, knowing Nintendo, if anything leaks even a little bit, they can the project. Like, did you know there was I believe there was a whole Netflix live action show for Legend of Zelda?
Legend of Zelda, yes.
Yeah, they canceled it because it leaked.
Oh my god.
Not even any pictures of it, just the existence of it. Someone talked about it and they canned the whole freaking project.
Who cares?
I don't know, but Nintendo, I mean, they do a really great job with surprising us with stuff, so maybe they had a really cool announcement thing that got kind of spoiled, but even still, I don't see that being justified. So anyway, they've been known to do stuff like this, so I wouldn't be too shocked if, because this Metroid game came out and it's just Metroid, they're probably like, I mean, in terms of sales, it's nothing compared to our Marios or our Pokemons, you know. Let's just Yoshio Sakamoto, we'll give him another shot. We did Metroid Other M in the interim. I'm kind of skipping one big Dread point, but we'll go to Other M because this was his next thing that he did. And he started talking about because people were interviewing him and asking, is this kind of what you wanted to do for Metroid Dread? And this was the first time we had anybody actually officially say that it existed. Because he acknowledged what he wanted to do for Dread was, X and Y, Z. We'll get into what he wanted to do in a bit. But because he said that, we know it was real. This was not like somebody like writing a list of funny names at like making a fake leak at E3 or something and writing a name in there wanting a game to be real. We know it was real because of the way they asked this question and he directly answered it. So it was real. And of course that just makes it even more heartbreaking and we all want to know what it looks like. What was this game that we didn't get? Because to make matters even worse, Metroid Fusion doesn't exactly end in a way that wraps everything up nicely for the player.
Yeah, it's not conclusive.
No. Without spoiling anything, by the end of Metroid Fusion, Samus is pretty much on the run from the Galactic Federation, who were the good guys for the entire series.
Up to that point.
Up till that point. And they are now hunting her because she just did a really big no-no. Yep. And is now basically on the run from them with an AI that she will probably talk about later. So anyway, it's not a satisfying ending at all. And
it's bittersweet.
We want more. And so it's why this is so another important for so many reasons. But anyway, one game actually talked about Metroid Dread.
Was that Prime 2?
Prime 3. I think it was Prime 3. I've actually got a poster of it behind me right now. Metroid Prime 3, there's one of the scans you can get to, and this is one of the developers weirdly at Retro Studios, which didn't make this any better that we didn't know was this real or not, because this, like I said, before the Other M interview, so this is what I was jumping over earlier, and one of the scans basically says something along the lines of, Project Dread is nearing completion. And people have made jokes about it. Actually, there was this hilarious tweet. I think John Cartwright did this just weeks before Metroid Dread actually got announced. Showed a picture of it and said, Pikmin fans like to complain, but Metroid has been waiting for its 5th entry that has been almost complete for 14 years. Yeah.
But yeah, sad about Pikmin on top of this too. Quit it.
Well, it's sad because now people were debating, like, does Retro Studios working on the Metroid Prime games, do they actually have insider information knowing that this 2D game was nearing completion or is almost done? So, and of course they're thinking, are they just joking? Is it just an inside thing? And we didn't know for the longest time. And Dread has always sat in this, is it real state? And then having the creator talk about it in a later interview and basically say, I had to can the project, but I took ideas from it to do this other thing. Basically, hard confirmed, it's gone, it's dead, it's not happening anymore. Because what he said he wanted to do was create some sort of new innovations to Metroid 2D that the hardware could not handle at the time. He wanted to do it on a Nintendo DS, and I think he overshot what the DS can do. Maybe he looked at Prime Hunters and went, which a lot of people did. But he probably looked at Prime Hunters in terms of what he wanted to design, and he's like, Metroid Dread can't do this. You know, I have to maybe hold off for later, or I'm going to design it early. It's just, I'm going to pitch the project to Nintendo. They're going to say this is not good enough. It's not going to work. And we will hopefully have time to cover what they're doing in Dread. I know we don't have a lot of time. I'm already getting too much time into this already, but still. So that's basically, like, up till that point, we really didn't hear from anything about Dread, even since that interview. There's been a couple little murmurs, but that's pretty much it. So out of nowhere, that's why E3 is so big.
Yeah.
Just in 2021, all of a sudden, you know, it's not just that it's Metroid 5, it is Metroid Dread.
Dread.
Yeah. Oh my god. Okay, so that's a very quick history on what Dread was. There's a lot that I skipped over, but at the very least you can now go into it just kind of appreciating what that means, because you might go through a lot of people's reactions. Like I said earlier, Metroid 5, yeah, they're excited for one.
Oh yeah.
But they all scream when it's called Dread. And you're probably wondering, well, why? It's a title that sounds kind of interesting.
It's called Dread.
Is it a horror game now?
You don't act happy with Dread.
Right. But yeah, so God, what else did we have for notes?
Yeah, so what they said during the interview with Yoshio Sakamoto. Yeah, thank you. He said that this was supposed to be not only a continuation of the story, but also the finale to this current arc.
Yes, the conclusion to what he was calling the mainline Metroid story.
Right.
Yeah, in which, as we kind of talked about earlier, was Metroid 1, NES, all the way through Metroid Fusion.
Yep.
So he had a story in mind that he was going to conclude, and that was weird for all of us, because that it felt like, I don't know, you make a movie, Mission Impossible or something, and you just kind of keep making others and just kind of go with it. And Metroid kind of felt like that. Mission Impossible wasn't a great example. That used to be a TV show, wasn't it, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, never mind. That was a bad example. But whatever. You get what I'm trying to say. You know, Shrek. How about that? You make like one idea and you just kind of like keep going with it, which is clearly not designed, or they had no intention of it doing that. So anyway, you start from all of this and like, what are you doing for a story that's going to conclude? I have some theories.
Okay.
If you want to hear.
Yeah.
Sure. I guess. So basically, I don't want to spoil too much of Fusion, but basically in the events of Fusion, Samus is attacked by one of those X parasites we talked about earlier from the Ridley thing. Mm-hmm. And in order to fend it off, they need to inject her with Metroid DNA.
Yep. Which,
remember, they were the natural predator of the X parasite. And because of that, she's able to survive. But now she is actually part Metroid.
Yep, her entire genetic makeup has been reorganized, basically, as a result.
Yes, and we don't know exactly what that all is going to entail for later. Mm-hmm. My theory here is Now, because of course we can't just keep calling the games Metroid forever if there will be no Metroids in them, because the whole point of Metroid 2 was exterminate the last of them.
Yeah.
You find one baby, you take the baby to this research station in Super Metroid, the last baby Metroid dies.
Yeah.
So 4, Metroid Fusion, effectively didn't have Metroids, but they had to get around that. And I don't want Metroid games to do that forever, because they get around it by having the Galactic Federation kind of making a biological weapons facility and breeding them out of the DNA that they extracted from the baby. So it's reaching. And, I'm fine because you gotta have a Metroid in it, but at the same time, I don't want this to feel like we're reaching every time just to put this one enemy in here. So my theory is actually kill all of the Metroids. All of them. Gone. And Samus is the last Metroid. And now, all those memes of, Metroid doesn't let his girlfriend wear his helmet, and Metroid can't crawl, all that stuff is going to kind of make sense, because now when you actually call Samus Metroid, you're kind of right. And I didn't think about that in Fusion, but you're kind of right. Samus is Metroid. And then if you make games after this, you don't need to put the enemies in there, because Samus is the Metroid. And now she's the one being hunted. You kind of turn the game on its head, but the gameplay can be the same. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what he's going for, which this might be sense. Because big thing, we're going to, when we get to the story and like the actual game itself, and if I might be jumping ahead of myself here, there's a living Chozo in this trailer.
Yes.
A living, breathing Chozo.
They're supposed to have been dead for decades at this point.
There has never been a living Chozo ever in any Metroid anything, ever. We do know that they've raised Samus, though, so they were at least recently gone extinct.
Yeah.
So this is super weird. And by the way, Metroid Dread now has to happen at the very end of the timeline, so this is super strange. They've always been alive. They've always been. That's so weird.
Where have they been?
I have theories about that too. But just to tie one thing up, because the Chozo were alive and the Chozo created the Metroids, as we pointed out, I think this might be the last time we fight real Metroids, because these are going to be the Chozo that are making them kind of as like their own war machines. And that might be why Samus is like coming here to shut this place down. The story could obviously go in any direction at this point. Mm-hmm. I still think Samus is running from the Galactic Federation in this. The Chozo being in this is what's really weird. So if this is really it, he might be trying to, Yoshio Sakamoto might be trying to end the story as in Samus's relation with the Chozo and the Metroid, the species. And if you exterminate them, now you have to move the importance to Samus herself as the Metroid and the enemy of basically the United Police of the universe is what the Galactic Federation is.
Yes.
And yikes! Now granted, she's so badass it doesn't matter. She can kind of hold her own against them, which is why she's fine in Dread. But it's a big deal too. Before you move on from it, one really weird thing I've only seen from people hyper-analyzing the trailers, because of course I watched that, and did it myself. We don't know if it's the case. I will say the only thing that scares me about Metroid Dread.
What's that?
If you watch frame for frame the clip where they show the living Chozo, it looks like his beak is moving as if he's talking. There had better not be voice acting in this game, and you better not voice act that Chozo, because that is going to be awkward beyond all reason. I don't care if you put, text at the bottom and do that, that's fine. I don't care. If he has to talk, he has to talk, and I get it, he's alive, but don't voice act it.
Well, wasn't there voice acting in Prime 3?
Yeah, but that's fine. I mean, I didn't really care, but I don't know. It's something about the 2D ones. I want this wrapped up here.
Oh.
Maybe it could just be me playing the series and putting them together like that. Something about seeing or listening to a human voice coming out of a living Chozo just seems so odd.
A living chicken man, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like no matter how well you act this out, it's gonna sound weird. I don't know. Even if you Kazooie, then
man, I was gonna say, if Orson Welles was still alive, I think he'd have made a good voice for the Chozo.
And make the next Metroid game, which has a new spin. You're fighting tripods in the War of the Worlds.
Why not?
You know what? Yes,
that would be cool.
That would be cool. I mean, anything's cool. I'm just so happy that it's back, it's real, and we can actually play them. Oh my god, this is the first HD Metroid game. Yeah. This is so big. And oh my god, it looks so good.
It does.
So was there anything else before we can move on to the actual trailer itself? Because that's the thing. We clearly talked about this for about 40 minutes on just the significance of what this means, and not even about, oh yeah, this game looks fun, because it does.
It does, yeah.
And that's another thing.
Yeah. No, the only other thing I had in mind was the fact that this was actually given time at E3, and I don't know if it was meant to just alleviate fans who were like starved for any Prime 4 information.
Yeah,
what I mean?
maybe. If that's the case, if that's Nintendo's mentality, they would have given Samus Returns more precedence during the 2017 show, because that was that game's job. It was created, I feel like, to be Samus returning. We're bringing back Metroid, so that way when Prime 4 drops, it doesn't feel like a completely random game. So, well, I mean, you also could have done that with a Prime Trilogy, brought the Switch, and I'm still waiting on that, but anyway. I feel like that was its job. So to suddenly have Metroid Dread be, I'm gonna say, the big thing that they had to show.
Yeah.
Even Breath of the Wild 2, I don't want to derail this too much, but I'm still waiting on something to really sell me on that game.
I'm interested.
It's piqued my interest for sure. I'm watching it, I'm still waiting, however, story-wise or gameplay-wise, to see some reason why I have to play this one. Up till then, I'm just like, yeah, it looks cool. It's gonna sell well. I think it's gonna do well. People are gonna like it, but...
Yeah, personally, I'm a lot more interested in Dread than I am in Breath of the Wild 2 at the moment.
That's what's so shocking. A lot of people are, even casual players who played Breath of the Wild and not a single Metroid game.
Yeah.
That's just a testament to how crazy this game looks. So can we finally talk about it?
I guess we can.
Metroid 5 is real, and I get to sit down and talk about it?
Yep, that's all I had in terms of...
Okay, so what did you think about just the game itself?
I thought it was... Because I have yet to play Samus Returns, so I gotta borrow that from one of my other friends.
Because I won't lend it to him, because my 3 save files are all 100%ed on all 3 of the difficulties, and I won't let him touch it and ruin it.
Don't let him know this, but I think he might like Metroid just a little bit. Hi, Alex.
Back to what we were saying.
No, but I thought it looked really cool. I liked the idea that it really did try to switch up, like you said, turn the whole Metroid thing on its head, where instead of you being the dominant person in the game, just going mowing down everything in your path, you've got this unstoppable robot transforming thing.
Nemesis-like idea.
Yeah, this SAX. Yeah.
Yes. The thing about the SAX that, if there's a few complaints I have about Fusion, and you can listen to them in my review of it, by the way. I got to talk about all my grievances in that game.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. I feel like all of them got addressed in this trailer. Yeah. Well, some of them had to show up in the treehouse, but they addressed my issues. One of them was with the SAX. He's so cool. It is so cool. Yeah. It's so menacing and terrifying. But the problem is, every single time it appears, limitation of the hardware.
It's scripted.
There's that coming back again. Is the limitation of the hardware at the time. It had to be a scripted event. Now you get to run from it. It's an enemy, but it basically 3-shot kills you, and that's the idea. It's not supposed to last long. You're not supposed to fight. You're supposed to run. Yep. Now that's what the Emmy, the robot thing, is in this. Yes. Except the idea is, if it gets you, 1-hit kill, game over. Game over.
Right.
Wow.
And you've got to be very careful then when you're exploring, even more so than usual.
Yes.
Because you don't know when this thing's going to pop up.
Right. Now, did you watch the treehouse? There was actually 2 parts of the treehouse. I didn't realize there was a second part till after.
No, I didn't watch it all, no.
Oh my god, do yourself a favor and check them out, because there's so much they didn't get to show you in the trailer itself that they get to talk about here. Oh my god. So basically, if you want to explore the game, because there's regular areas like usual. Okay. So very similar to Samus Returns, except this time you're actually escaping the planet. You're coming from deep within and you're leaving.
Oh, that's cool.
So my theory is you might have been captured or taken prisoner, and you're trying to escape.
And that
might explain why it's so cybernetic and you're seeing these. But the thing is, we're on a new planet called Planet ZDR. Kim likes to think of it as DDR, and she wants it to be a dance thing.
Planet DDR.
Planet DDR. And these Emmy, it's an initialism. I forget off the top of my head what it stands for. It's like extraplanetary investigative, I don't know. But basically their job, from what I can tell, is to be, 1, extremely indestructible and go in a really dangerous alien planet location and extract DNA. which would make sense if their job was to go to dangerous places and get them the DNA to make the BSL from Metroid Fusion. Otherwise, how could they do that? Right? How could you get all that dangerous DNA other than following Samus's wake? you know?
Yeah.
But still, why would they go after Samus? She is now the only one who has Metroid DNA.
Yep.
That's if you want Metroid DNA, and obviously they do, that's how you get it. You defeat Samus, and you pin her down, and you extract that DNA. As soon as they have that DNA, it's all over. So that makes sense. You get caught, you're effectively dead. Even if Samus could fight her way out of that scenario, it's over. You can't let them have this. So that's so crazy that, like, story-wise, it's not just like a menacing thing, because it is. That thing is just frightening. But aside from that, it's also like a story thing. Like, you can't let them get you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're really cool. But basically, like, one thing you would have not seen in the trailers was when you go into certain parts of the map. I'm gonna say like 50% or so. It was kind of hard to tell of the map is like quadranted off into chunks of smaller areas that are Emmy zones, effectively.
Oh, okay.
And as soon as you're in them, there's no other life forms, it seems, because it's pretty much got everything else.
Oh.
And remember the pixelated doors?
Yeah.
You walk through the pixelated door, you're in an Emmy zone. And you're in there, it's in there at all times, roaming. And it can hear you. It will follow where it finds sounds. And this is honestly what I think was what was too hard for the DS to do. Have like too many elements of the game that are at all times like learning and doing things.
Yeah, it's trying to find and process. Yeah,
exactly.
That would be way too much on that poor DS.
And also, when it chases you, it needs to figure out how to get around scenarios. You know, say because during the treehouse, they will slide under something, and Samus, you would think as the player, oh, I just got out of that scenario. You walk through a door, and you can see as the screen rolls over, because the Emmy just kind of kept on barreling past you, and you thought, oh, it missed me. No, it knows if it goes into that next room over and comes down, it's gonna get you. And you're actually trapped. So it knows its map, and it knows where it can go, even through the doors.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's freaky.
Yeah, no, this thing is Mr. X then.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it is. But it's faster. It's so much faster. Mr. X, though, always knew, from Resident Evil 2, he always knew where you were, but he came slowly. Emmy doesn't know where you are until it catches wind of you, and then it is gunning for you.
It is not messing around, though.
No, it basically goes at the same speed Samus runs, which is terrifying.
Oof.
I know, but and I've seen some Emmys that are different colors. You might have seen that too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
From what I can tell, they have different abilities. They can do different things. So like the white one is like a base one. And then like I think like the yellow one can move extra fast. Like the green one might have different abilities too. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure when you like investigate far enough into their areas, you find like that Omega Cannon, the big blast you can do.
Mm-hmm.
If you shoot him in the eye, I think that kills the Emmy. It's the only way to actually defeat it.
Oh.
My thought is if you defeat the Emmy of that area, you might get its ability. Or maybe they're just making the Emmys stronger as you go, and each one is faster and stronger, and maybe you don't kill the yellow one to get the speed booster, which, by the way, was not in Samus Returns.
Okay.
So it's kind of cool to see that come back.
Yeah.
Because it's been a thing since Super in the mainline ones, and it would be kind of weird to have, like, the mainline abilities not be here.
Yeah.
That's possibly what's going on, but at the same time, there's other regular bosses that you're fighting and kind of stealing their abilities from. Like, there's this huge invisible thing. They gave him a name, but they fight him in the treehouse too, that boss that they kind of showed towards the end of the trailer.
Yeah, I'm going to have to watch through this treehouse then.
Yeah, oh my god, I will gladly watch it again with you if you want.
Okay.
But yeah, so they fight this guy who can, like, go invisible, and by beating him, Samus gets the ability to use that cloak to go invisible to now hide from Emmys when she's gonna inevitably get trapped, which uses the Aeon meter, which is coming back in such a cool way. So the Aeon gauge was something you didn't see because it's from Samus Returns.
Okay.
Effectively, to really point it close, I mean, if you want to know it more in depth, watch my Samus Returns video. But basically, it's like a magic meter Samus can tap into and do different abilities with. It's pretty cool. Some are basically just for puzzles, but still, it's really an interesting thing to add in.
Okay.
It and so many other things from Samus Returns, to avoid from this being way longer than it needs to be, are being thought through in so many cool ways. Like the melee counter, you can do while moving. It's no longer stop and wait in melee.
Okay.
You can just dash into people and do it.
I
it's
did
like
see
they
that,
don't stop your momentum. But anyway, like the Aeon now, you don't have to go and gather this stuff and farm to get it back. Now it kind of punishes you from spamming it by you depleted the meter, you have to wait, run around, and then it'll come back up. So you can't just run around invisible in the Emmy zone. You have to be very smart and careful about how you use this stuff, and you use it wisely.
That makes sense.
You might get Aeon tanks to make it hold more of a charge, but honestly, I don't even want to do that. I kind of want to keep it where it is, because originally you could get Aeon tanks in the other one, and you would hold more, but I kind of like the timed thing, because now you can better design your puzzles to know this is exactly how much the player has to deal with, and they can't cheese my puzzle because they can't just hold invisible the whole time and run through it.
I see.
Right, so there's so many things that they've done to up their game this time, and not just the graphical department, which it looks beautiful.
It does look really good.
I normally it's weird when Samus wears different colors, like in Fusion. Like, I don't really know how I feel about the weird globular suit.
It makes sense.
It's grown on me over the years.
Yeah.
But it's definitely weird. As opposed to, the more traditional suits. But then all of a sudden, like, this color theme business with Dread looks so nice. It just looks so sleek. I'm so confused, like, or more like intrigued about the story of how she got out of the regular suits that she was in. Because after... This is not a spoiler. At the end of Metroid Fusion, Samus effectively absorbs one of the SAX and kind of gets her suit color theme back, but we don't really know what that means, and she's still kind of stuck in the suit. And by stuck in the suit, I mean, remember I said she had to get Metroid DNA to kind of save her life? She can't take this suit off because now it's kind of like Venom, like a symbiotic thing. She has to keep it on.
Yeah, if she takes it off, the X-Parasite will basically...
Right.
No, sorry, I'm wrong. The X-Parasite was directly linked to her through her suit, and they couldn't take it all off.
Exactly.
That's right.
The X wouldn't let go.
Yep.
But they basically have stopped it from killing her, but it's still trying to grab on. These things are just too ferocious. Now, either there's some way that they found out how to save her, but I don't think the Galactic Federation is wanting to do her any favors right now. So my theory is it's still on.
Yep.
And if you look closely at her new suit, you can actually see like almost vein-like muscular tendon things running through the sides.
That's cool.
The blue, I think it's blue.
Yeah.
That's probably the old suit. And she has to like symbiotically keep it on, and maybe she just wants armor, because wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, in Fusion, God, everything hits like a truck. Now, that was kind of its own design thing. That's why Fusion Hard Mode was a thing in Samus Returns. But I think maybe she's just trying to modify and get like actual armor back on. Or maybe she investigated this particular planet because the Chozo lived there at one point, and she doesn't know still live there. And she was trying to get like Chozo technology to repair her suit. So maybe, I don't know, we could... I don't want to talk too much about like the actual game itself. I'm just saying, just in terms of like the innovations of it, it looks so good.
It looks like the gameplay is drastically improved. Like, it looks very smooth. It looks like it flows exceptionally well, and I'm eager to play it. Really... October can't come soon enough.
No, and one thing that's in the treehouse, little things that I was noticing that just made me go, like, little stupid things that got me so excited.
Yeah.
One thing, they pick up one missile expansion during this, and I get it, you don't want to show where the goodies are, but they touch one of them, maybe even on accident, but it showed one missile expansion gives you 2 missiles.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's awesome, because that means you're hiding so many more, right?
I hope so.
I would hope so. I would think that it means you're hiding... this map has to be so big. Now, gauging from the main map I saw compared to Samus Returns, it just looks... a little bigger, I'm guessing, because we only see 2 of the environments on it, but I'm guessing it looks a little bigger, and Samus Returns map's pretty big. So I've got high hopes for it being bigger and better than Samus Returns in every way, and I love that game.
Well, good.
Yeah,
I don't have anything else to add.
One more thing, probably a good thing to end on, is the fact that Yoshio Sakamoto also said, when he was saying this is the end of the Metroid story, but not the end of Metroid games.
Right.
Meaning he's got plans for, and they might even be developing, as soon as this bad boy drops, the next Metroid game.
So now they're going to be ripping off Prometheus then, right?
Right. Right. Instead, the next parasites are gonna come out of you like with like this weird C-section birth thing. And God, that movie was. You know what? Let's move on from that. but anyway, I like the War of the Worlds theme. I could see it.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
There's so many things you could do with this, and my question is. Do you do it at some other point in the timeline, or does this all begin a new chapter of Samus and the Metroids after Dread? Because that, to me, opens up so much more, and I don't want to, because I always felt like Metroid Fusion did some weird stuff, as we said before, about Samus' story, and how do you really go on with this, and how do you bring back the Metroids without making it look weird?
Yeah.
So if he's got a creative way to end this, and maybe Samus is the last Metroid, and you've got some cool way to make the series go forward, and it's obviously still Metroid games, you know, I want a Metroidvania, I want to run around, collect stuff, and get bigger and stronger, and beat bosses, that's the game. If you can still make that work, then please, I don't want to say fix Fusion, but Fusion felt like you weirdly put this weird cork at the end of the game. For the longest time, we've been living most of our lives with Fusion being the end.
Oh my gosh, 2002. Yeah.
Yes.
I was in middle school, my dude. Oh god.
It's been so long.
Oh god.
I can't like express this to any other way other than this is just surreal. Seeing it come back, just the fact that it's coming back, and then the fact that the game looks so good. Yeah. And Nintendo was pushing it and marketing it so hard, and people are buying and pre-ordering this thing like crazy. I am so excited, and October, like you said, cannot come soon enough.
No.
I'm just so excited about this. But there's so many things that I'm sure if I go down and watch this Treehouse with Zach, I'm gonna be like, oh my god, I should have talked about that. That looks so cool. Like, this idea is so awesome, and I can't wait for that. But
and this time I'm gonna have to be the one to keep up with him. So
but well, you'll be able to play it too. It's not like, you know, Dragon Quest where I'm like, I played some of the demo of 11, you know. But yeah, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to see, like, my Twitter. Like, I follow Metroid the Idea, you know, the category, whatever you call it on Twitter.
Okay.
Basically, if anyone posts anything about Metroid, and it gets even a little steam. It kind of shows up in my thread and I can see it. That basically meant nothing up till a couple weeks ago, and I am so happy. Every time I feel like I log into Twitter, I'm seeing new fan art. People talking about how they've never played a Metroid game before, and they're so excited for this one. They're showing, God, there's so much. And it's so great. I want to see more Nintendo franchises do this, but obviously my number one pick would have been Metroid.
Got your wish?
Yes, I did. And the only thing I could ever wish for after this is more, please. More, please. More, please. That's it. I will gladly wait for Metroid Prime 4, even if it goes into 2024. Even if it goes that far. I'm thinking 2023 is probably when it's going to come out finally. But even if you push it all the way to 4, I don't care. Dread is so good. And the idea that more 2D Metroid is coming, because personally, I don't know about you, but I kind of think 2D Metroid is a little better than 3D Metroid.
I will give you that, yeah.
And maybe it's not the fact that you're
2D a lot better.
Yeah, maybe it's not the fact that you're just cubing the literal hiding places that you could put stuff, but something always felt perfectly at home with 2D Metroid. And it's almost like that was its original design philosophy, and I just want to see more of that. There's not enough. There's a reason so many indie games use this formula.
Yeah.
This game created a genre, and it just disappeared, and Nintendo didn't do anything with it. So I'm super excited about it coming back, if you couldn't tell. Yeah. But anyway, is there anything else that you would like to... Would you like to say something this episode, Zach?
I'm excited.
Hey, look, he's excited too.
Yeah.
What Metroid games did you play? Just so that, like...
let's see.
You know what? We'll cover that when we get to our tier list.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like from where you started, and like, I guess, like, when's the last time you actually got to play one of these?
The last one I actually played recently was Super, but that was like the umpteenth time I played that one.
Yeah, me too.
Because see, like I said, I started with Metroid on the Game Boy Advance and the GameCube, because I got Metroid Fusion.
Released at the same time as Prime.
Yes. So it's like I got that as like a reward for doing good in school back then. And I had no idea what this was. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this person looks cool. I get to fight aliens. Yeah, sure, whatever. I'll give it a shot.
Sure.
Started another lifelong obsession.
Yeah.
And then I got Prime because I got a GameCube for that Christmas, and I'm like, yes.
You know, it's such a shame. I hear so many people say that Fusion was their first Metroid game, and I say it's a shame because 5 was like the fabled legend joke of a game that will not ever exist. And that's so sad that, you know, someone gets into a series and you want to know what happens to Samus after this point.
Uh-huh.
It's finally happening.
It is, and I can't be happier, to be honest.
But anyway, we could clearly go on forever if you let us, so I'm going to have to call it here before we make this even longer. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning into this episode of HITBOX. If you enjoyed the show, you can help us by keeping it alive on Patreon with the links in the show notes in this video's description. For those of you on YouTube, remember to like the video and subscribe for more, and be sure to let us know what you thought of the show and what other topics you'd like to hear us cover in the future, like more Metroid. Special thanks to all of our amazing Patreon members. See you guys.
Bye.